Hi, this is Courtney Cooper. Welcome to Training Tip Tuesday. I'm the owner of C-Square Farms and a partner in Excel Star Sporthorses. And we've had a lot of people ask us questions about why we do what we do cross-country schooling. And so what we thought we would do is make a compilation of different videos comparing and contrasting different horses and sort of what we did with them and why we did what we did with them. So this was a couple weeks ago at Stable View. This is one of my young horses, our River Star. And this is just our first sort of gallop around the field at Stable View. And we're just warming up. And you can see he's a little bit rank in his head and a little bit tough. And so with him, a lot of what we do is just trying to settle him. This next horse, this brown horse, is a horse that I have, Excel Star Double Clover. And he's a very different type of horse compared to River. And with DC, that's his nickname, we try to get him longer in his frame and a little lower in his head and neck. And so I'm sort of trying to do that as we just start to warm him up so that he'll drop his head and neck and it'll be easier for him to cover the ground as well as soften in his neck. And so what we do is you can see that there are just some very straightforward galloping fences. And then at the very end, we just add him to bend into a table there. And then we come back and give him a pat and take a little break and let him catch his breath. Then we move on to more complicated things. This is River again. And what we're doing here is we're schooling some narrows so that we're going to put them together. When you're doing young horses, you want to make sure that they understand the questions. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll break down the individual exercises into parts if we can do that. These were two skinnies on a two-stride line, but they were offset. And so what we did was we ended up jumping the one skinny a little bit left to right like the line, and then we came back and we jumped through them. And you can see he's starting to level out with his head a little bit. He's been a real challenge for me in terms of bidding and finding something that he liked better. So you can see there that he did that better. And actually it was a three-stride line, not two. So he did that quite well. This is another young horse of ours. This is Excel Star Time to Shine, or David. And David sort of started off the exercise that we did with River with a bending line, a table to a brush, just to put a nice bend in and move his body around. He then went down and we jumped a table to a skinny. And this was sort of a preamble for him to get prepared to go jump the smaller skinny that you saw River jump. And so that we just did that so that, again, he had some knowledge of jumping skinnies before we went to a harder skinny. And so you can see my coach there, Erin, who helps me with my horses, just pointing out that she did want me to go over to the skinny, so that's what we did. And then the same thing here, we're jumping it a little bit left to right so he sees the job before we put it together. These are all a bunch of young horses, 7 and 8-year-olds this year, and so it's not as if they have tons of mileage, and it's quite early in the season in February. And so rather than really testing them right now, it makes more sense to go ahead and give them good rides. So you can see here that David comes through, sort of reads the question from far away, and then just goes forward to it. So he does that very, very well the first time. So after doing something like that with skinnies, what we moved on to with these guys was doing some ditches and then these stumps with brushes. And you can see they're quite narrow. And so what we ended up doing was trying just to get the horses to look. And you can see there that River has a little bit of a hard time with him throwing his head around. And so we ended up schooling that several times. I didn't get video of it all. And this is a longer version with David of what we did. We started him off over a small ditch, and then we put it back together in a half coffin. Again, just to give him a little bit of an education with another skinny. And then he's going to come around and we're going to jump that stump again that you saw River jump. And these are, again, pretty narrow. They're kind of a funny shape for the horses to read. And so just breaking it down makes it more bearable for them to deal with. And you can see if you go back, River jumps it quite awkwardly the first time, and then he got better and better. And it just builds their confidence. So we try to break it down, make it understandable for the horses. And then you can see we come back to this one, which is skinnier actually. And so we jumped that very, very well. And so that was David doing that job. So that was great for him to do that as well. Then we moved on to a very interesting coffin combination. You can see here the ditch is quite in the hollow, so it can be quite spooky and difficult. All of my horses tend to be very good at ditches, and so we just wanted to school the ditch so they got an idea of what was down there first and foremost. Again, the idea of breaking down the exercise so that the horses understand what it is they're being asked to do. And so you can see David does that really well. And we didn't do that in combination with anything else because we just wanted him to understand and focus on that. Now we're going to come back and we're going to angle over the ditch slightly and add the out of the brush. And you can see he comes back around. He lines it all up, gets his ears on it, jumps that, and takes a quick 2 strides up over the brush. So that was really good. And then we turn around and we're going to do the whole thing together. So hopefully he sort of gets the idea of what's going on. You can see he jumps that a little bit awkwardly and then that a little bit long. Again, a really good boy to go through that and to go through it so well. You can imagine if we didn't break it down that would have been a whole lot more awkward and not really give him much confidence. And so that's why we do what we do there of just breaking down the exercise so he understands it. So now we're going to come back with him again, setting him up here sort of quietly so that I can add my leg, and then he jumps through it a lot better. You can see he's quite a lot braver about the whole exercise. And here you can see we do the same thing with River, and he comes down, is actually quite aggressive to the ditch. So we just try to tune it all down because we don't want him to be jumping so hard over the ditch. We just want him to step over it so that when he comes back this way, that he just pops over it there. He takes a funny little step because he's a little too bold. And so we put it together actually with that left-handed corner in the back, and you can see he's quite patient about coming. This is his first time and super brave down through here, and was really, really happy with him. So ultimately what you're trying to do is getting to competition with a horse that's happy, healthy, confident, understanding the exercises in front of him and able to read. And here you see Time to Shine at Pine Top this past weekend. This was his first competition back after his winter holiday, and you can see he's full of run. So I hope you've enjoyed this insight into what we do. Have a great Tuesday.